Hello there. Thank you for joining the AmeriCorps Grant Writing Workshop session for applying for AmeriCorps funding. This is led by Serve Wisconsin and other grant writing workshop sessions that are led by WEC, Wisconsin Evaluation Collaborative. My name is Alexis Matthews. I am going to be presenting on this session. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I currently am a program officer and RFP manager with Serve Wisconsin. Prior to my time at Serve Wisconsin, I was the AmeriCorps program manager at Easter Seals, Wisconsin, from 2015 to 2017. And then I also served with Habitat for Humanity as an AmeriCorps member from 2007 to 2008. And that's a picture of 4 of the Serve Wisconsin staff. I am on the far right. And so I will be leading you through this workshop. And if you have any questions about the RFP, I will be your main point of contact. So just to get started, first off with a very basic, what is AmeriCorps? AmeriCorps is a team of members that are addressing compelling needs. So AmeriCorps uses the term members instead of employees or volunteers. They are members. AmeriCorps is also a way to leverage local and federal resources, meaning that you would organizations receive federal dollars that are then matched with local dollars. AmeriCorps is not just a grant for funding, so it's not just a lump sum for organizations to do what they please with. It is for an AmeriCorps program. And then AmeriCorps is also a way to build organizational capacity to meet needs through volunteer generation, partnership building, things like that. So altogether, AmeriCorps is an opportunity for an organization to host an AmeriCorps program where they have members that are addressing compelling needs through in communities and through organizational capacity. To give you a picture of or an idea of what AmeriCorps in Wisconsin looks like currently, there are approximately 950 AmeriCorps members across the state right now. And each year, those positions open up and are new individuals in those roles. We have 31 AmeriCorps programs at the moment, and in those 31 programs, there are various positions that AmeriCorps members take part in. So this is a list of just some examples. We do have quite a few education-based programs. We do have healthcare-based programs. We have programs that have focus on summer camps, whether that be for individuals with disabilities or camps for year-round respite care, also summer camps. We also have farm-to-school coordinators, volunteer managers for capacity building, construction of homes, just a whole lot of different things. So each of the 950 AmeriCorps members doesn't necessarily do something different. Many of the programs will do the same thing for all of their members, but there is a very wide range in that 950 members. The structure of national service, I will present on this with the disclaimer that things will change slightly upcoming because of a rebranding that happened at the federal level and is trickling down to the others. But as of right now, this is still one way to look at everything. So the very top there is the Corporation for National and Community Service, which is also known as CNCS. And CNCS is where the federal level of AmeriCorps takes place. The major rebranding that has happened is that CNCS will no longer go by that. They will actually just use the name AmeriCorps. But underneath that federal level, you'll see the 4 different circle logos. Those represent kind of the different streams of service. So to the far right is Senior Corps, which is for members that are 55 and older. There's also then next to that is AmeriCorps Vista, which stands for Volunteers in Service to America. NCCC is right next to that, and that is focused on doing short-term projects for a year where members and team leaders actually travel around different regions to do different types of projects. And then the one on the far left is with Serve Wisconsin. So that is where our office is, Serve Wisconsin, and we manage the funds that then go to AmeriCorps programs that are called state and national programs, or state programs that you see there. And these AmeriCorps state programs are programs that are providing one-on-one direct service and doing um, a lot of service in the communities, whereas you'll see the other three on the right, Senior Corps is specific to 55 and older. Vista is based in capacity building, so it's a lot of one member at one organization or just smaller cohorts. And Serve Wisconsin, the AmeriCorps state programs are typically larger programs and do a lot of the direct service instead of capacity building or disaster response. So how to apply? This is really just a framework for what we'll kind of talk about for the next little bit. So determine that you should apply to Serve Wisconsin. We'll go through what that means, submitting a notification of intent to apply, getting a DUNS number and registering with SAM, reviewing all documents, writing a high quality proposal, creating an eGrants account, and submitting your proposal and required additional documents by the deadline. So applying for AmeriCorps, determining you're an eligible applicant. So the individual, an eligible applicant is an organization, either public or private nonprofit organization, including this list here. So labor organizations, community organizations, faith-based organizations, institutes of higher education, state agencies, government entities within the state, and Indian tribes. It can also be partnerships or consortiums of the above. So, but this is really the overarching list of who, as far as organizations, are eligible to apply for AmeriCorps programs. AmeriCorps is not for any for-profit agencies. So this is a pretty specific list of who, as an organization, can apply for an AmeriCorps program. Next up is the notification of intent to apply. So the notification of intent to apply is a mandatory step. I will repeat that. This is mandatory for applying for AmeriCorps programs. It is 5 questions, maybe. It is very simple, and really the reason we use it is to gauge how many applications we will be receiving. Completing this does not obligate you to apply. So it is mandatory if you plan to submit, it is mandatory. But if you decide to, you submit the notification of intent to apply, but you're not sure if you're going to apply, you don't have to submit an application. But this notification of intent to apply is mandatory in order to submit an application. It's normally open for about 2 weeks from it opens the day the RFP releases, and it will close about 2 weeks after that. The deadline will be posted on the notification of intent to apply on our website and various other places. Please make sure you do this. You will receive an email from me within 24 hours of you submitting this. And this is on the notification of intent to apply. But if you don't get that, there is an email there for you to submit a question and find out why you did not receive it. This has been historically our best way to make sure that we receive all of them and don't have any technical glitches. There's no reason to wait and do this at the last second. As soon as you have any interest in applying for an AmeriCorps program, just submit it right away. Next up is the DUNS number and SAM registration. So if your organization hasn't already, you will need to obtain a DUNS number, or a Dun and Bradstreet Universal Numbering System, and register also for SAM, which is the System for Award Management. If you do already have that, you'll just need to make sure that your SAM registration is current. You will need these in order to receive funding, and the registration could potentially take some time. So we recommend that you do this right away. Most organizations already have this, so you'll want to check with like your HR, your fiscal department, things like that, just to see if you already have it, to make sure that it is current. SAM did recently change the steps that organizations need to take. So I'm not as familiar with them, but usually people don't get too confused during the process. It's just that it can take quite a bit of time. Next up is the actual request for proposals, or RFP. This is just a screenshot of our website. So on the left side is for the Serve Wisconsin AmeriCorps program, and on the right is for a planning grant. If you are applying for a full AmeriCorps program, you'll use the RFP button on the left. If you're applying for a planning grant, you'll use the RFP button on the right. The RFP does have is the first document that you'll want to look at, but there are going to be a lot of links on the website with a lot of different documents that will be helpful to you. In the RFP, you'll see some of the following things that I'm going to talk about in these next few slides. First up is that CNCS, or the Corporation for National and Community Service, has 6 focus areas. And these focus areas are in order to carry out Congress's intent to maximize the impact of investment and service. So listed here are the 6 focus areas. These can change year to year, but as of right now, they are disaster services, economic opportunity, education, environmental stewardship, healthy futures, and veterans and military families. These are discussed in detail in the RFP and application instructions on CNCS's website. So it's definitely places that you are able to look into each one to see if you fit into any of them. CNCS also has performance measures that match these focus areas. And not to be, you'll see on the right there is the bolded box. There's funding areas, focus areas versus funding priorities. So for example, the focus area could be education, which is that 3rd bullet point on the left. But a funding priority is a more specific thing in that focus area. So CNCS has these 6 focus areas, but they also go a bit of a deeper dive into funding priorities. So the focus area could be education, but the funding priority could be education in STEAM-specific activities. Or it could be disaster services, with the funding priority could be specific to COVID-19 response. Each year, these funding priorities change. All of these focus areas and funding priorities are listed in the RFP and described in more detail. And in order to receive priority consideration, your application must demonstrate that the priority funding area, so that funding priority, is a significant part of your program focus and outcomes. You do not have to fit in a funding priority in order, or a focus area. But in order to fit in a funding priority, you must be, your application and program design must be a significant portion of that. So if you're in education, but if you're focusing on early literacy and the funding priority is STEAM, you would not fit into the funding priority. And that's okay. You shouldn't change your program to fit into the funding priority because they change every year. So you should design a high quality program that fits what your organization or the needs are, and go from there. You do not need to fit into one of these. Here's basically everything that I just talked about, but so CNCS focus areas, the priority consideration is a demonstrated that priority area is a significant part of the program focus. Information about the priorities can be found in section 8.0 of the RFP. Using national performance measures, which performance measures is a separate presentation if you want to go back to our website for that, or tailoring your program to fit a CNCS focus area funding priority is not required and should not be done. Like I mentioned, these change. So you do not want to fit your program to qualify under one of these, because the next year it may not. And if you find that the primary focus of your program is not one of the CNCS focus areas or priorities, it's by no means a bad thing. We have many, many examples of successful programs that do not fit into a CNCS focus area or a CNCS funding priority. Applicants need to describe that their program is addressing a need, which may or may not be the focus of CNCS. So the point is to have a high quality program design, demonstrating need and the evidence base for your intervention. Next up is member service terms. So member service terms, there are various, you'll see there the minimum number of hours. So there are 7 different opportunities for members to complete different various terms of service. So different numbers of hours. So there's full-time, which typically is when a member would serve for a full year, which is 1,700 hours. We also have 3/4 time, which is 1,200 hours. This is typically used around school years, but does not have to be. Half time is 900, reduced half time is 675, quarter time is 450 hours, minimum time is 300, and abbreviated time is new this year, it is 100 hours. So these are all of the different member service terms that you may use as part of your application. So when we talk about AmeriCorps members, one person in any of these service terms is an AmeriCorps member. So if you have one person, one member, you could have one member serving in minimum time. You could have a mix of all of these positions. So if you had 25 members, they could be split into 10 full-time, 10 half-time, and 5 minimum time. They can be any position. You'll just request that in your application of what will work best for your application and for your organization's needs. If you are a summer-focused program and you need a lot of members in the summer that serve 450 hours and just a couple that would serve the full year, that's fine. You can really decide what works best for your organization. And again, just an AmeriCorps member is one person. I specify this because in the next slide here, I'm going to talk about member service years, so MSYs. So to preface this, there is a short training, separate quick training on the Serve Wisconsin website that talks about the difference between member service years and members, so MSYs versus members. Sometimes this is a topic that a little refresher is helpful, so I did just a quick recording on this that is on the website if you ever want to just look back and see a reminder for the difference between members and MSYs. So in the last slide, we talked about AmeriCorps members or individual persons, but there are also AmeriCorps member service years or MSYs. An MSY is the full-time equivalency of a service term. So one full-time member equals one MSY. 2 half-time members is also one MSY. The smaller service terms, such as quarter time and minimum time and others, are not as easily divisible into one. So really it's a simple equation calculation to determine the size of your program based on service hours. The programs with the higher MSY will have a higher total number of service hours provided to the community. We require, as Serve Wisconsin, that applications have a request for no fewer than 10 AmeriCorps members. This means that those 10 AmeriCorps members could all be serving in 300-hour slots. I'm going to switch back to that slide. They could be in any of these. They do not have to be 10 AmeriCorps members that are all serving in full-time slots. They can be 10 AmeriCorps members that are serving in any of these slots or any combination of these slots. We do tend to get a lot of inquiries from organizations that think that this application is to receive a few AmeriCorps members to serve at their site. So 1 or 2, it would really be helpful to have, etc. But due to staff time and other capacity commitments for oversight and management with both us at Serve Wisconsin and you as an organization, the board encourages applicants to apply for no fewer than 10 AmeriCorps members under this RFP. In other words, it's going to be a lot of work for you and for us to manage an AmeriCorps grant. So the cost benefit tends to be more sustainable the larger the program you are. But again, 10 members is what we request as the minimum. And these can be a combination of any slots. So half-time, minimum time, full-time, or any combination thereof. It's just running an AmeriCorps program is not something that is easily done, especially with only 2 or 3 members. So we do this to help you and to help us as well. So these are the different types of awards. If you were a new program, you will be applying for the cost reimbursement, which is that second column in the first column with the lighter colored. So this is talks about the maximum cost per MSY. And this is what I want to talk about here on this slide. So the maximum cost per MSY is, and this is in the RFP, in the budget instructions, in the main RFP, and in the application instructions as well. The cost per MSY is what your budget cannot exceed as far as the amount that you are requesting. So $16,300 is an amount that CNCS identifies as being the maximum cost per one MSY that a program can request. I have a sample equation and a couple slides on this. It's something that I think by getting in and practicing your budget is where you'll see where this works out. The reasoning for this is to make sure that it is a cost friendly budget, because although CNCS and the federal share is a certain amount, you as an organization also have to match funds. So this is the amount that they determine each year. It goes up slightly, about $900 each year historically. So for 2021, 2022 applications, the cost reimbursement, or the cost maximum cost for MSY is $16,300. For a complete proposal, you'll see here on the right is a snippet from our website. This is where you will look for all of these forms. This is where you found the link for this webinar you're listening to right now. We will have all things on, everything important will be posted on this website and included there. But for a complete proposal, you're going to want to include all of the things here that on the left. So the narrative will include the executive summary, program design, organizational capability, cost effectiveness, and budget adequacy. Those top 4 things are addressed in eGrants in your narrative. You'll find out more about these in the RFP and the app instructions also. You're also going to submit a budget. We give you a template, we give you instructions, so hopefully it is not anything too challenging to figure out. You also need to complete a logic model. Again, there are instructions for this as well, also in eGrants. The performance measures, which again, there is a separate training for performance measures, so I will not get into that too much here. Just know that there is a document for performance measure instructions, and you will need to follow the instructions in there if you are choosing a CNCS national performance measure. There's also various additional documents. You'll see the list of additional documents in the RFP, in an additional checklist, and on our website. And then finally, you will need to complete that notice of intent to apply, but that will be the first thing that you do. This is just another screenshot of that application instructions and attachments. So you'll see everything on our website for those. Additional documents. This is just kind of a heads up that all documents must be received by the deadline. Submissions after the deadline will not be accepted, plain and simple. You will be, it does say submitted electronically or hard copy. The only way that you are able to submit via hard copy is if you request that due to COVID and making sure that everyone is staying safe. We do not allow submitted through mail. It is only through electronic email submission. All of this is in the RFP and in the application instructions and everything. If you submit your additional documents early, this does allow Serve Wisconsin staff time to review and notify you if any documents are missing. So what do we mean by early? That means at least 24 hours in advance, ideally more. Anything less than 24 hours in advance of the deadline is really cutting it close for us to be able to review and make sure that you have submitted everything. Please don't wait until 4:15 p.m. if it's due at 4:30 p.m. and expect us to be able to review, notify you, and have you resubmit if you were missing anything. And finally, don't wait until the last minute to be preparing these. Some of these additional documents will require your fiscal team to help out with things. It will require you to collect documents such as an audit or an indirect cost rate agreement and things like that that you may not just have saved very accessible to you. So make sure that you start preparing your additional documents soon after or right away when the RFP releases. This is just a quick slide on the budget. So some required expenses include the National Service criminal history checks. We require use of 2 vendors called TrueScreen and FieldPrint to do these. We have more instructions in the application budget instructions regarding the cost of them. We also require use of Encore reporting system. This is where members submit their timesheets. It's where programs submit their quarterly reporting and all of their requests for reimbursement as well. Travel to Serve Wisconsin approved training is a budget expense that is required. Living allowances and health insurance for full-time members, and then also FICA and workers' compensation for all members. Here's an example of the maximum cost per MSY. So if you are requesting 25 MSYs or 25 full-time members or 50 half-time members, which would equal 25 MSYs, and that maximum cost per MSY is $16,300. If you had 25 MSYs times that $16,300, the total is $407,500 is your maximum CNCS share. So that is the maximum amount that you can request for funding. There is a match required, which I have mentioned. Grantee match must be at least 24% for the first 3 years of funding, and then it increases each year after that. Once you hit year 10, it is 50% match. Grantee match can come from cash or in-kind sources, and it must be documented. There is the potential that it can be from a federal source, but it has to be approved, and it's very rare that this occurs. If you feel like you have a federal source that could potentially be used as match, you are able to talk to us more about that. We also have an opportunity for planning grants, and there are separate webinars for planning grants as well as new applicants for programs. And these will be posted once the RFP releases. So if you're interested in a planning grant or if you're interested in applying for a program grant, I do encourage you to take part in listening to those webinars also, because it will be a more in-depth what is AmeriCorps, what can a planning grant be used for, what does it look like as a new program, things like that. So they're much more in-depth than this grant writing workshop as far as how to apply. Planning grants can request up to $75,000. Again, there is a minimum 24% match. During a planning grant year, you get Serve Wisconsin staff guidance, but you also have the ability to work with experienced consultants who we recommend some, but you're welcome to find your own also. And WEC staff, which WEC again is the Wisconsin Evaluation Collaborative. The grant is for 1 year. It's a good opportunity for applicants that may want more guidance before jumping in and running a program with 10 members. It is only available during formula funding, which is what we are about to release here in February. February is around the time that we typically release that. And this is my contact information. If you have any questions regarding this PowerPoint or this presentation, or if you run into any questions about applying for AmeriCorps, please feel free to reach out to me. I would be happy to chat. Thank you so much, everyone.